We are foring.
We are scoring.
And we are sportsing.
Welcome to the Four Score Sports Podcast. I am Christian.
I'm Nick.
And I am Spencer.
Welcome back to the holiday special from Four Score Sports Podcast. This is the back half. If you did not catch the first half, go ahead and take a look at our other episode that we uploaded, let's say like a few hours before this. Within the last few hours before this video. Today, on this half, we're going to be talking about the NFL playoff picture at the Week 16 mark. Then we're going to have Nick on his grandstand about the Eagles playing like shit.
Go Birds.
And we'll be talking about NFL player safety as well as NHL player safety and their suspensions, as well as going on about the NHL regular season so far and the discussion over shootouts, as that has always been a hot topic around the league. And then we'll be going over a general topic that is, let's say, has been more and more apparent that sports journalism has been prioritizing speed over accuracy. So, yeah, let's get it going. All right. So,
playoffs.
Today, as of this recording, it is 11:18 at night on December 21st. The Rams have beaten the Saints by what score?
It was 30-22.
30-22.
I might be wrong. Don't
30-22.
Oh, ooh, look at me.
30-22. And this has major playoff implications, meaning that the Rams could be, what, sixth place?
They're currently in the sixth seed, yes.
Okay. And this has a lot of playoff implications for that whole NFC side. I mean,
yeah, it almost knocked the Saints out of that contention for that wild card spot, honestly.
Oh, yeah.
Because the Saints are now sitting at 7-8, which is not a good sign.
The ninth seed.
When you got Seattle also in contention and Atlanta also fighting for a spot too. So there's some battling going on over there.
As well as, if you think about it, huge storyline would fulfill the script requirement for the early playoffs. The Rams go into as the sixth seed, and these positions are held. That means they go into Detroit.
Does the sixth seed play the fourth seed? Or the third seed?
Yes, I think so. I might be wrong.
Is Detroit third currently?
Detroit is currently the third seed.
Okay, well, depending on how seeding plays out, they have the huge opportunity to play Detroit in Detroit as Matthew Stafford's first playoff game against the Lions, and it's huge.
Since 1993.
Yeah, first home game for the Lions since the 90s. Potential first playoff win since the 90s. Against their former quarterback, who may or may not have a spot in Canton, who's already won a ring with the Rams. So it'll be a very interesting storyline to see that. But there's so many other great teams in the NFC, mainly the top 4 seeds and
top 5. Come on.
Potentially the 5th.
Dude, don't even count the 4 seed because the 4 seed's the Buccaneers.
That's so true.
Oh,
you're
really?
so
yeah,
right
because
with
it's the first 4 seeds are the divisions.
The divisions.
Yeah, it's the somebody's got to win the division.
Yeah.
Playoff spot.
Yeah, so
because the Bucks are right now sitting at 500 at 7-7.
Yeah, so it's the NFC South is always kind of not the greatest, but then you've got the other teams. You've got the juggernauts. You've got the Niners, the Cowboys, the Eagles, and the Lions, who are all kind of sitting up there. Obviously, I don't want to toot my own horn here, but it just looks like San Francisco's on another level compared to those other teams with the scores that have been put up. The Eagles are kind of in a minor death spiral in my mind, but I wouldn't be too worried if I were them. San Francisco had the same issue earlier on in the season, with albeit good teams. If Kirk Cousins doesn't go down, I see that Vikings team contending more. Same could be said about Cleveland or Cincinnati. So if I'm Philly, I'm not super worried about losing to San Francisco and Dallas. I'd start getting worried after Seattle and whoever you guys play after Seattle, if you want to enlighten me.
We just played Seattle, and we're playing the Giants, and then the Cardinals, then the Giants.
Okay, so
easiest ending of the schedule.
I honestly wouldn't be that worried unless Tommy Cutlets comes out of absolute nowhere and thrashes y'all, which I highly doubt. I very highly doubt. So, realistically, Eagles are going to put up a good stint, probably win out. I'm putting money on the Niners winning out. Baltimore's going to give us a run for our money, but I doubt we're going to lose that. Dallas. I'm confused about Dallas and where they lie, and I'm confused about the validity of Detroit. I'm not saying they're bad. I'm just saying, are they going to be able to compete with the other three juggernauts in the West? Or the NFC, I should say, not the West.
I need a refresher. Who won the Fraud Bowl?
When was that? Who was the Fraud
Bowl?
Bowl?
Miami versus Dallas?
That's Sunday.
Week.
Oh, is that this
That's
Sunday?
Sunday.
Oh,
okay. That's Fraud Watch Bowl.
That's Fraud Watch Bowl.
That was Fraud Bowl.
Okay. I mean, like, has Miami still been on that same trend?
They're poised to win their division.
Well, I mean, like, is Miami, like, still only beating teams with losing records?
I think they've I just pull up their schedule right now. Yeah, it looks like they're only beating teams with losing records, but to be fair and to give them the benefit of the doubt, they've only played teams with losing records recently. In their last 5 games, they played the Raiders, the Jets, the Commanders, the Titans, and then the Jets again, and kept Jets to a 0-piece, 30-0, without Tyreek. So, listen, do I think the Dolphins are legit against really good teams? Absolutely not. But do I think that they have a chance against the Cowboys right now?
I would say so.
I'd be inclined to believe so, and it's in Miami. So you don't have to play in Dallas. Playing in Dallas is not an easy thing to do.
It is not fun.
You saw when Dallas goes away, they tend to lose games. They lost in Philly. They just lost in Buffalo pretty badly.
They lost in San Francisco.
So the Cowboys can't go on the road.
Well, those are legitimately hard teams, though.
But it's the atmosphere,
It's the atmosphere, because they go back home, they slaughter the Eagles. They don't slaughter the Eagles. They beat the Eagles.
One of the most stressful games I've ever watched was a wild card game in Dallas, and it literally came down to the final play and an absolute aneurysm from Dak Prescott
with the ref, right?
Yes,
where he didn't set it right.
Yes,
yeah, I remember that.
It took a blunder like that for us to win the game. Playing in Dallas, because of one, how that stadium is set up with the sun, and two,
I got a lot of flack for that.
With that, because they have a glass
Dallas.
roof, and the primetime games they get put in.
So that was at night, wasn't it?
No, not the wild card.
So if you look at like certain baseball stadiums and certain NFL stadiums, the sun will go through glass. This is another problem they have in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil.
Yes, it's awful.
The sun will come in through the windows, and the windows just magnify that light. It cooks. And you are playing into that light. You can't see it.
Miami's open.
Miami's an open dome. But there's still some
no,
issues.
like the away sideline is in the sun.
It's directly in the sun.
And like
and
that's
it's like,
not
they said it's like 15
cool
to 20 degrees weather.
Yeah.
To difference, yeah. So, I mean, the atmosphere you play in really does matter in the NFL, especially with, fans, weather, especially weather. And, all things considered with the lighting.
Yeah.
So, and the time in the day you play.
And as well as they can squeeze 100,000 people in that stadium.
Exactly. Like the decibels are like really high in there.
Yeah, so it's playing in Dallas isn't easy. So you just have to avoid it. That's why I like sitting at the first seed and having everything run through San Francisco.
So if you want something, you want to hear something crazy, if the Eagles win out and the Cowboys win out, if I'm not mistaken, the Eagles take the division. Because they have more in-conference
What's the
wins.
tiebreaker?
The in-conference wins.
Say that again?
They've won more games in the NFC than the Cowboys. They have a better record. Because they would have the same record of in division wins.
Division wins, actual records.
They'd be tied.
Right.
And then it would go to the conference. Who's won the most NFC games?
Right.
So the Eagles would have won the most NFC games. If I'm not mistaken, I don't know if the Seattle loss messes that all up. I really don't know. But that's what it was last week.
It might throw a wrench in it just a tad because you lost 3 games to the NFC in a row. However, Dallas has also lost to us, you.
I'm trying to see who they.
And then
they lost to Arizona.
Okay, that's 1.
They lost to you guys.
2.
They lost to us.
3.
And then they lost to
Buffalo.
Buffalo.
So that's 3. and then you guys just lost 3.
3.
Okay,
So we would be tied.
So would it come down to point
I
differential?
don't know what that would come down to.
Would that come down to point differential?
I don't know if this is when we'd get a week
Strength of
19.
Strength of schedule.
If
Would
it's
it really
strength,
come down to week 19?
if it's strength of schedule, then we win. We get the win because we have a harder strength of schedule.
Well, yeah, that's what I'm asking.
But I don't know what the.
Have we ever had a week 19 scenario?
Yeah. Oh yeah, we've had it a few times. That's before we like really set in stone what the tiebreakers. The tiebreakers are. But I'm looking up the tie-breaking procedures right now because I actually want to know. It goes head to head, and then head to head.
Split.
Best win-loss tied percentage in games in the division, and then best record in the common games. So games where they play the same opponents, and then the conference, and then strength of victory. So I think Dallas would win in that, because it goes strength of victory.
They win in?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
I guess the strength of the teams that they're winning against.
Which
I
they're
think
on
that's what
fraud
that
watch
means.
for.
Yeah. So then the Eagles would win, and then the strength of schedules after that. So
yeah.
So very interesting playoff picture, at least for the top 5 seeds.
the funniest thing is at the end, because there's 11 really good tiebreakers, and then number 12 is a coin toss. I'm not even joking. Number 12 is a coin toss.
Yes, yeah, they do a lot of. They do a lot of coin tosses to decide shit in the NFL. So I remember
just flip a coin.
Literally flip a coin.
That's like the last case scenario.
Yeah, that
Dude,
is like
that sucks.
So the Niners. There was a while back.
they do it for the playoffs all the time.
and the draft. It happened. The Niners and the Raiders had the same record going into the draft, so they flipped a coin. The Niners got heads. Niners got the 9th pick. The Raiders got the 10th.
I wonder who those picks
That actually blows.
Mike McGlinchey was number 9,
were. And then who was number 10?
I don't remember. Irrelevant.
Probably.
That
Let me
actually
check.
blows, man.
Yeah.
There's nothing better that they can scrap for?
I mean, you could. Well, do you want to hear all the different? Wait, hold on.
I mean, if that's what it has to come down to, in my opinion, that's what it's going to have to come down to.
Well, dude, if the imagine this, okay? All of those strength of victory and then strength of schedule, best combined ranking amongst conference team in points scored and points allowed in all games, and then best combined ranking amongst all teams in points scored and points allowed in all games, and then best net points in common games, best net points in all games, best net touchdowns in all games, and then a coin toss. There's so, like, if they tie through all of that, then they're the same team. And they, honestly, how else do you do it? You really can't. Honestly.
I don't know.
And then it gets crazy when it's...
I'm too much of a casual to really come up with a solution.
Yeah,
like it just that
so
sounds
hard.
like it sucks. It really does.
It's not great. But going back to the playoff picture.
Yeah. Oops.
I like the chance of the Rams better than a team like the Vikings or the Seahawks. Although Seahawks, if Geno Smith comes back and that team can stay healthy...
You don't trust Locke?
Listen, I saw a lot of people that were just like, Locke played his best game in the NFL against the Eagles. Without a doubt, that's the best game he will ever play in the NFL.
I have receipts of you hyping up Locke against the Niners before he threw 3 straight picks.
Okay, that's me just trolling you, bro. Like, I hope you realize that's me just trolling you.
I know.
But like,
But let it be known I have receipts.
realistically, like, that was his best game that he's gonna play.
But that was a
NFL.
good game. Like,
It
by
was,
any
it was
by
a
no
pretty
means.
solid. It was a solid game against a really banged up Eagles defense. But
With Matt Patricia.
you'll hear that in a little bit. But I mean, the Seahawks.
Sorry, I had to
The
include that.
Seahawks really proved that they can hang with the big dogs, because as much as the Eagles were on a downwards trend, that's still not an easy team to beat. Okay, the Eagles are still a good football team.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, they have a really good roster with really good players. So the fact that they were able to hang for almost the entire game, not beat themselves up when they were down most of the game, they were losing most of that game. And they fought and they got back, especially with a backup quarterback.
Right.
It's impressive,
Right.
nonetheless.
Mhm.
So I think the Rams and the Seahawks have potential. Oh Lord, they have potential, and I honestly really wish the Buccaneers didn't make the playoffs. I wish no team from the NFC South made the playoffs.
If anything, like if you have a weak division walking into the playoffs, that's just
that
like
used to be the NFC East. If you remember,
Oh,
once upon a time,
I remember, and I relished.
like
I reveled in it.
what I'm saying is like if you have like a division that has like weak as hell teams, like the South,
Make them play road games. Make them play road games.
Well, I mean, like I was just gonna say, like for other teams, that's just running a risk of injury for their players.
That's what happened. It was
Yeah.
like,
but then you get we talk about the ability for upsets in other leagues, and in the NFL, that's a very real possibility. Is that a team could walk in,
it's only
be
one
the
game.
home team, be the team that obviously doesn't deserve to be there, and prove why they should be there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like the Kings in their 2012 Cup run. They were the 16th seed, bro.
You're right.
so what?
They were the last seed in the playoffs, and they won the Stanley Cup.
Can I just educate him for a minute?
Yeah.
So the Kings in the 2012 playoffs came down to the last 2 games for them to get in the playoffs.
Uh-huh.
They were the 8th seed. This is at the time where it was like 1 versus 8, 2, 7, 3, 6, 5, 4.
Yeah, how things usually go.
Yeah.
How
Unless
they
they
should
changed it.
go.
They changed it.
Why did they change it?
More divisional rivalry and more divisional opponents.
Yeah.
Like make divisional games more
Interesting.
important. But anyway, during 2012, the Kings entered as the 8th seed in the playoffs.
In the West.
In the West.
They were
proceeded
ranked 16.
They proceeded to beat the first seeded President's Trophy winning Vancouver Canucks in 5
AKA
games.
the team that scored got the most points.
Got the most points overall in the league. Then went on in their second round to beat the 2-seeded St. Louis Blues in a sweep.
Yeah.
Then marched into Phoenix, at the time they were called Phoenix,
Yeah.
Coyotes, the 3rd seed, and beat them in 5. And then they beat the almighty Martin Brodeur in the finals in 6 games.
Yeah. A remarkable cup run.
No
The
doubt.
most improbable.
No doubt about
So
it.
that's what I'm saying is like that can happen, especially in the NFL. That can happen.
And there have been teams that have been that good.
There have
Yeah.
been teams.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm like, you can't just like call it an immediate bye. You can't just like kick them out of the playoffs.
No, yeah, I know,
You
but
gotta
like,
let them have that chance because at the end of the day, they did technically earn it.
I'm saying like in theory, like those bottom feeder teams that scrap their way in is just it feels like just more of like a roadblock to the other team,
But-
just so they don't injure their players.
Yeah.
I will also say, to give the Buccaneers a little bit of credit, Baker is not having a bad season.
No.
He's being compared to 2022 Brady, albeit that was a 40-something-year-old Tom Brady with no run game. That not the greatest comparison of Baker's career. However, he is doing all right, and Mike Evans did just have his 10th 1,000-yard receiving season. 10th. The only other player he comes close to is Jerry Rice.
Really?
Mike
Astounding.
Evans has always been able.
The fact he has a ring solidified his career in the Hall of Fame.
Right.
Easily.
Like 100%.
Mm-hmm.
So
Easily.
they have, pardon me, they have really good options. They just need to lock it in. And and we haven't even considered the AFC yet. Like the AFC's got, you've got Baltimore, who's looking really strong. We're gonna see how strong they are on Christmas. All I'm gonna say is that bird gauntlet will be complete. But the Dolphins, they got to prove themselves. Wondering on what's going on with the Bills and the Chiefs. The Bills just beat Dallas, but the Chiefs are kind of floundering. Like what's going on?
Well, the Chiefs are currently 3rd seed in the AFC.
Yeah, but aren't they 8-5?
They're 9-5.
Okay, 9-5.
They're 9-5, and they play the Raiders.
Okay, so let's count that as 10-5. But
so I mean, but like with the Chiefs, you get the Raiders, Bengals, and the Chargers. Raiders, Bengals, Chargers. I think you win 2-3 of those, and you make the playoffs. But the thing is that the Chiefs have not impressed me at all.
Not at all.
Because of their receivers. And it just kind of further proved that Mahomes needs somebody.
Rashee Rice, though, I think is coming into fruition.
He's coming into fruition, but it's not enough and it's too late.
At this point in the season is. I think that's a next season development, but I think he is serviceable. But this brings up my hot take. Mahomes is a system quarterback.
Oh boy, only if
I'm
Michael
just-
were here.
I'm just playing. Please don't kill me. Like that was an actual
Purdy's a
joke.
yard after catch merchant.
I don't make me pull up the statistics.
Yeah,
Do not make me
pull
pull up the
Here we go.
statistics. I'm not doing this right now. I don't have the mental.
Yak is stupid anyway.
It's really not. It works for both receivers and QBs, but that's besides the
That's
point.
imaginary numbers.
It's really not. It
should be
counts for
taken-
both. It counts for both positions.
See, that's what makes it stupid.
It should just be the receiver.
Okay, then assists shouldn't exist.
What?
What?
That's not what I said.
No, that's what I'm saying.
But that's not what I said.
That's what I'm saying. Because that's how it sounds to me.
I didn't say assists shouldn't count. I'm saying that it should only count towards at least the receiver.
Then no quarterback is ever breaking 100 yards again.
I'm saying it shouldn't have been that way in the first place.
Yeah, but that's how the league was established. You can't change it now.
Well, we've
I'm saying it's
we've
stupid.
changed the way that statistics work many times. That's why there's
Dude,
that's why in the hold on.
They're not
hold on,
counting potential yards.
Hold on. That's why in the MLB they went away from OPS to OPS plus, which is a completely new stat that readjusts the entire stat to be a more player friendly, works for everyone, and it's a linear way to say which player is average, which player is above average, which player is below average. Same thing with FIP. They took ERA and WAR, condensed it into one, and made an entirely new stat that now phased out ERA and WHIP for the most part. Nobody's looking at ERA and WHIP. People are only looking at FIP. Now that's for baseball, but these are ways that you can just complete. You can have those yards, those total yards, but really create the new yards after or the air yards or yards minus yards after catch. You can make that new stat and that be what we look at. But keep the record still.
Even considering that, Purdy's still number one in air yards.
I don't have the time to sit there and calculate that. I don't even.
I'm telling he has.
I don't know
the most yards per completion through the air. Like he has.
I don't know where to find
every
that.
single statistic. He's first in outside of.
Well, if you can pull up that
maybe
statistic,
yards.
I'd love to see that.
But
But
see what I can get.
with-
'Cause I know I have.
I mean-
Like I'm just saying, like yards after catch, it just bloats that number.
it does,
it's
especially
for a quarterback.
especially when this is not to take away from the 49ers, right? At all, because they are an amazing team. The 49ers, their receivers and tight ends are so good at blocking that, and Christian McCaffrey too is really good at blocking, so that when a player does catch, they block downfield and the player can take off.
Yeah, it's just the scheme works. It's not. Necessarily. It was showing his
Yeah, let me
the air yard stat.
Keep going.
So it's just it's still an important stat because it's still yards that
this
had
is
to
just
be fought
completion
for.
percentage on the
That's
20 plus
My
yard.
bad. I thought it was.
Well, no, yeah, like I'm not taking away the importance of the stat. I just feel like we're looking at like a bunch of bloated numbers.
But it's like no quarterback would ever have a 3,000 yard passing season. No quarterback would ever have a 2,000
Well,
yard passing season.
And that's
that's the problem, though.
like I said when talking about the baseball stats, we created a new stat and then took all of the old players, converted them over to that stat, and now we can all compare on the same stat. Obviously, that's a little bit harder with this stat because they weren't calculating yards after catch way back in the day.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit harder to compare
Yeah.
because with FIP, that's more average based rather than yards.
Yeah,
It's literally just yards.
It's easier to do averages.
But now
than-
we can still keep the yards, the bloated yards, and still have that be the record, but start a new stat in which we are
Yeah.
able to look at more air yards and see like how impressive are these yes, we see this quarterback's throwing 4,000 yards, but how impressive are these yards for the quarterback? Because yeah, you can throw a 5-yard check down. I'm not saying this is what Purdy does or anyone does. I'm saying you can throw a 5-yard check down, player takes it 90 yards. And then
That shouldn't be
you
95.
you get 95 for your
It should not
quarterback.
be that way.
But you can get one that says, "Oh, it's a 5-yard plus
Okay.
a touchdown."
Okay. Brock Purdy is 4th in air yards at 2,000.
Trails who?
Josh Allen.
Okay.
Wait,
Best
am I reading that
arm,
wrong?
probably best arm in the league.
Am I reading that wrong? Oh, that's Jared Stidham. That is not what I want.
Beautiful man, Jared Stidham. But anyways, kind of going back to when you have it all together, let us know. But going back to the playoffs,
Yeah.
I actually think it's really funny. The amount of backup quarterbacks that are in the playoffs right now or fighting for playoffs. The Colts, the Bengals, the Browns, the Vikings, all fighting. The Seahawks fighting. Trying to see who else. The Steelers, Mitch Trubisky experience. The Raiders.
Steelers are done.
Okay.
I mean, you see all these teams that have backup quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Second and third string quarterbacks are now like fighting for playoff spots.
It's a cakewalk for the juggernaut.
It's a cakewalk for the juggernauts,
But
but
it's
let's
also
be real.
good playing time and good ways to get these
Yeah.
guys' resumes out there. Because I would have never heard of Jake Browning until he thrashed some of these teams.
But like, does that matter in the playoffs then?
Yes.
It could.
If your playoff performance is good enough, that means instant money.
Well, I'm talking about like the now.
I
if
mean,
you get the experience now, you can try and keep up with the big dogs.
Well, no,
it takes one slip up. One slip up.
I don't think I'm explaining what I'm trying to explain very well. Like, I'm saying, like, the big teams with legit starters are going to walk all over these fools that have backup quarterbacks.
but you don't know that because the Eagles
Theoretically.
walked over on.
Theoretically.
Hold on.
By a backup.
Hold on. Nick Foles.
Oh, this is true. Nick Foles just walked in
Was he
and
not
won.
a start? Okay, forgive me. I don't
Carson
remember.
Wentz was the starter.
Until
Got
correct.
injured
That
against
is
the
like
Rams.
week 15.
That is correct.
So like
Bro
Nick
came in
comes
and won a Super Bowl MVP.
and then has never been heard from again. He
Won a gold medal in pickleball. True story.
Are you serious?
Yes.
That's crazy.
Yes. So another great example. Steve Young was drafted by the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Absolute dog shit. They hated him so much in Tampa Bay. They traded him to San Francisco. He was the backup to Joe Montana. Joe Montana goes down with an injury. What does Steve do? Takes over and wins the Super Bowl. Wins league MVP.
Well, I mean, like, how many times is that going to happen, like, over the course of 5 years? That happens, like, once every, maybe, 12 years.
You just got to give a dude a shot.
That's
You
like
give
the
one
that's the
dude
thing.
one
If you
chance.
don't give them the shot, then you keep these backup quarterbacks suppressed.
The reason Kaepernick even got a shot was because Alex Smith went down, and Kaepernick took the Niners to a Super Bowl.
Sam Bradford only got a shot in the Eagles roster because whoever the fuck was before him got injured. Michael Vick probably.
I
Sam
still don't think
Bradford-
I'm getting my point across that well, but let's just move on.
It's just saying that it's not necessarily a bad thing to have these guys at QB because
And it's also they're not going to get trampled.
They can,
Especially if it's just a quarterback, they're not going to get trampled. Not necessarily. Obviously, the Chargers was a big example of why they could get trampled. But they're also playing a guy that's literally named a hockey stick.
Easton Stick.
So, but like sometimes these teams have healthy everything else, but just a backup quarterback, and they can still put up wins. And that's what we're seeing with these teams that are fighting for playoff spots with backup quarterbacks, is that they're still putting together wins and quality wins against somewhat good teams.
So I found that stat for you on air yards.
Yes.
Okay. Number one is Tagovailoa at 2,000.
Obviously, bro just
Of
bombs
course.
it to Tyreek.
2,343. Number two is Prescott with 2,287.
Boo.
3 is Stroud with 2,269.
Impressive.
Number
Bro can't count.
Number four is Goff with 2,252.
Okay.
Also good.
Awesome.
Behind him is Lawrence with
T-Lord.
2,148.
Love Mr. Saturday.
Sam Howell is behind Lawrence with 2,139.
That's kind of impressive. I didn't think Sam Howell did
And
that.
Purdy's 2 yards behind Howell with 2,137.
So what rank is that?
It's very close.
It is pretty close.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's 7, and he's trailed by Hurts, Love, and Allen.
Hey, my boy, big boy Hurts.
Love? Oh, Green Bay, that's right.
Yeah.
So yards
Give me
per
the loving, baby.
yards per attempt is kind of BS right now because Malik Willis leads with 14.8, but he's only completed 4
Bro, yeah, I was
passes.
gonna say, bro's been like half a game.
So Purdy leads all starting QBs with a 9.9 yards per attempt, which is insane. By any MVP hasn't even come close to that in the last 4 years.
Right.
Yards total, he's only 200 yards behind
Josh Allen.
Tagovailoa.
I was like Josh Allen.
He's less than 200 yards behind Tagovailoa. Completion percentage, that's AJ McCarron. I'm not listening.
If you click it twice, it'll put the bottom at the top.
He was the top.
Oh.
He is 100% complete.
McCarron, baby. But anyways,
So besides the point, I'm just
Present
saying that like these guys still do well.
they still do well, but like, hey, moving on. Am I allowed to lose it.
Let me get hot cocoa and a bedtime story because you're
Bro.
going to put me to sleep.
I am not going to put you to sleep. Bro, I need to know, okay? What the actual hell are they doing? The Eagles, okay? Because, first off, let me tell you this, okay? All the people right now, all like the sports media, Twitter, Instagram, everyone in the NFL world right now is blaming who? Jalen Hurts, okay?
Not the right guy to blame.
Not the right guy to blame. I even saw Colin Cowherd, known Jalen Hurts hater, defended him and said, hey, look, you just played the toughest schedule stretch in the last 10 years in the NFL. You also played 4 out of those 5 games outdoors in rain, wind, terrible conditions. You came out of there with way more wins in that stretch. The Seahawks don't count in this stretch. Way more wins in that stretch than you thought you were going to get. That a lot of people thought you were going to get. Because they thought you were going to lose to the Chiefs, thought we were going to lose to the Bills. Okay? On top of the 49ers and at least one of the Dallas games. I knew we were going to lose to Dallas in Dallas. Like, I had no hope at all for that. But the reality is Jalen Hurts was sick. Jalen Hurts flew separately to Seattle and was a last-minute starter in a rainy game where weather was a pretty solid factor in that game. Okay,
Was it raining?
It was raining.
Okay,
and I'm not using that as excuses as to Jalen Hurts. Blah, blah, blah. I'm just saying that's the fact, the things that he was facing during that game, as to give you a little bit of understanding on why that's not necessarily his fault for this game. Yeah, he missed a few good reads, and yeah, freaking Nick Sirianni told him to bomb it to AJ Brown to hopefully get a DPI, which it was defensive pass interference. The league came out and said that it was. Also was an interception, but that's also besides the point. The league ranking and offense for our points for and yards are both top 10. So it's not the offense, really. It's not. The defense is the problem. We knew the defense was an issue, but I don't think y'all realized how bad the issue was. Our points against is ranked 26th, and our yards against is 22. And it's not
too much.
What?
It's allowing too much.
It's allowing too much, but it's not the rush yards either, because our rushing defense is ranked 7th in the league. Like, we're the 7th best rush defense in the league.
Oh,
that's good.
Okay.
The pass defense though is like ranked dead last.
Swiss cheese. Absolute Swiss
cheese.
cheese.
They are literally ranked 28th in yards, 31 in touchdowns, and 29 in interceptions.
They get carved.
They're getting carved.
Ouch.
Now, I will say that there has been their fair share of injuries. Blankenship's been injured, Maddox has been injured, Slay's been injured, Bradbury hasn't been healthy for a lot of the season. They're grasping at straws here to try to figure out what's going to work.
Right.
So, those first games, if you really want to take a look at those first games when we went 5-0, right? We had a pretty good defense, right? And our pass yards on defense, there was maybe 2 to 3 games. There was 2 games in our first 7 that we let over 200 yards, air yards. Sorry, 3 games in that first 7 that we let over 200 air yards. The last, since our bye week, aka since the Chiefs, our pass yards in almost every game has been 250 plus. That's bad. There's your problem, especially on defense. Offense, you can say whatever about the play calling. Yes, it's awful, but you have playmakers for that. And they're not necessarily finding, a hard time to score in this offense right now. The offense is still got the potential to score. Yeah, they were scoring 30 points in games before this. They started getting bad, and then they dipped low. Obviously, play calling does mean a lot. Not having Dallas Goedert meant a lot. Their offensive line being a little iffy was a problem. Them not running the ball was a problem. Yes, there was a lot of problems there, and that is on the offense entirely. And that is on Brian Johnson and Nick Sirianni to call the right plays. But also on Jalen Hurts to realize that, hey, this play is not going to work against this defense. switch it up. I don't know if y'all saw, but CMC was sitting on the Manning cast, reclined in his chair and being like, yeah, this is what he's going to run. And he ran it to a T.
Well, CMC's also a wizard who did go to Stanford, who probably understands the game better than anybody else.
I'm not saying that he doesn't, because Tony Romo did that. Tony Romo's a literal idiot. But do you remember when Tony Romo predicted the entire drive to the touchdown?
But it's not
on his first game in the broadcasting.
It's
booth?
not.
But I'm just saying, like,
people. Dude, the glazing went crazy.
the glazing went crazy.
That.
Oh, he's
they
such
were
a
like, they were like, he's a guru. Why couldn't he do this when he was on the Cowboys? I'm like, he did. That's why he was a quarterback. Like, you guys forget.
But
he
like,
knows how to call plays.
But like, if Christian McCaffrey's gonna sit back in his lounge chair while talking about
literally, he's like
literally nothing to the Mannings.
Yeah, he's like, yeah, dive right, and it was
then
a dive
he's like,
right.
Dive right. He even called what the freaking motion was gonna be. Like they're so predictable. That's the problem. Everyone knows what they're gonna run, which makes it harder to run a route when everyone knows what you're gonna do. So, but back to the defense, they need to figure out what they're doing on the pass, because once Patricia gets Slay back, if we're sticking with Patricia long, into the playoffs, we need Slay back because they're a really good combo together. They just have a lot of good chemistry, and Patricia really understands how Slay plays in coverage, and they need to be consistent on their safety usage. That was something huge in that last drive. The touchdown drive, they decided to pull 2 of their safeties. They only had 1 safety high, which means there was only 1 guy to protect that deep ball. And the clock's ticking. They're going deep. I mean, there's no ands, if, buts about it, right? They're going deep. So why do we only have 1 safety, and why is James Bradbury against a very fast wide receiver? And James Bradbury is not that fast. No. If Slay was in, Slay would have him locked. But it's just, at the end of the day, the defensive play calling needs to be better. They need to understand that they can't just let whatever go by. They need to also understand that they need to cover their freaking man, because they are letting guys just run right past them to go to somebody else that's already covered. And now they're double teaming some rando. Right? Like they just need to have better situational awareness on the field, and it's not just the play calling, it's players too. Because we have no business letting these guys just run all over the field. Like, personally, if flipping it over to the offense, the thing that spiraled, that like signified a huge downfall in confidence, morale, and ability to work was not scoring the 2 touchdowns at the beginning of the 49ers game. If those two
100%,
those 2 drives
100%, that game gets way closer
in touchdowns, I'm not gonna. This might be me being a little biased, but I think the Eagles would have won the game.
You also have to consider San Francisco is a top 5 defense, so you cannot blame them entirely for not scoring.
Well, I don't blame them entirely, but I do blame them for not getting it done in the red zone twice in a row. Like,
and then there's a complete momentum shift.
Complete momentum shift, because for the 49ers, like, hey, this is a touchdown. We are a touchdown away. We can get it, and then they got it. And then they just kind of kept going because we were defeated because we couldn't score. So,
let me go back to what you were saying. This just clicked. You said that Patricia and Slayback have good chemistry, right?
They do have good chemistry.
Yes, they were in Detroit together, if I'm correct.
Patricia's
for a little bit.
Patricia's the new DC?
No, he's the defensive play caller. He's not the coordinator.
So he calls plays, he doesn't call schemes.
He's on the sideline.
Well, okay. But what about the rest of the defense?
The safeties, before Patricia was named as the play caller, the safeties were like, we're in charge of ourselves. We are going to govern what we do, and you don't call play for us. We will handle it. That's what they said. Because at the end of the day, we do have some pretty solid safeties. They just need to get their head in the game, because they were not. So the problem is that the linebackers, also, our best linebacker's banged up. He's out. Our best linebacker and best cornerback, both injured. And freaking that defensive line, Jordan Davis and
they can only do so much.
They can only do so much. But Brandon Graham and freaking Fletcher Cox, they're old as
they're
getting up there.
They're 12-year vets, dude.
Yeah,
damn. Like they're actually like, because trying to make this relate a little more to my franchises. Like, look, so you've got Fletcher Cox and Brandon Graham, still there? Okay. Yeah. They're 12-year vets. I think the oldest vet on the Niners D-line has probably been there for 7 years.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
The newest guys are like 4 years deep, maybe 5. Some of the newest dudes are like 2 or 3, maybe 1. I think we might have like a rookie in there, but it shows because like they still have the technique, but the age, when you slow down and the offensive linemen are getting bigger and stronger, it's so hard to compete with them, especially when your bones are starting to get brittle.
Yeah, it's just tough because the defense. Realistically, I saw somebody that was saying like the Eagles' defense would be so good like 3 years ago, back when most of these guys were in their prime. I will say, Shaq Leonard did make a huge improvement on that linebacking.
Yeah, that was a really
Once
good...
you get him, Nicholas Morrow, and Zach Cunningham all in the same linebacker core, that's a great linebacking core, and I would be so excited to see that. But the only thing I will say, Slay needs to come back. Maddox needs to come back. I was by far the most impressed. If we're going to take anything out of the Seahawks game, because that's really all you can take good out of. I guess the good you can take out of the Cowboys is that we managed to stop Dak in the second half. I don't think they scored a touchdown in the second half. The good that you can take is Keely Ringo, our first round draft pick from last year, is a stud.
Fake name. Sorry, had to do that.
Bro's
Say his name again?
Keely Ringo. Bro's a former Georgia Bulldog.
What's new? The Eagle and the
Eagles
and the Bulldogs.
Oh yeah.
Good
and
God.
Freaking what's his name? Eli Ricks, bro. They were covering. I think they let in that Seahawks game. It was 0 for 6 on passes targeted towards them. Like they were locked down in coverage, or maybe like 1 for 6. Like they were locked down in coverage. If there's anything good we're taking from that, I'm taking that because that is really impressive. Especially covering Tyler Lockett, Jackson Smith and Jigba, and DK Matt.
3 number 1 receivers.
I do feel bad because James Bradbury had to get brutalized by DK
on national television.
And James Bradbury hasn't been a number 1 cornerback for
years.
3 or 4 years. So
right.
I do feel bad. He's just kind of having to deal with it all. But I think you look forward in the Eagles scheme, they got to reset. They have to reset. Even like I keep going back to what Colin Cowherd said because I honestly was shocked that he was what he was saying because I agreed with it because he was like the Eagles, they just need to focus. They just need to realize that they've had some pretty bad luck when it comes to the schedule, pretty bad luck when it comes to the weather, and pretty bad luck when it comes to the health of the players because they're sick, they're getting beat up, they literally had to play. Think about this. They had to play the Cowboys, the Chiefs, the Bills, the 49ers, and the Cowboys again in a 5-game stretch.
That's a tough-ass stretch.
You're getting
beat
up. You're getting beat to shreds.
I mean, but that happens not every season, but like there's going to be a team who has to deal with a similar scenario every year.
Oh, definitely. And it happens to every team that has to go through this.
It's happening to Kansas City too.
Is they get exhausted at the end of it because they're constantly having to play the best teams in the league. So, with that being said, I'll allow my Eagles to have the benefit of the doubt that we can really turn it around against the Giants and the Cardinals. If we can't beat the Giants and the Cardinals, I don't know what we're doing in the playoffs.
If you don't win out.
If we don't win, we're in the playoffs.
Those are the last 3, right?
Yeah. Regardless, if we don't win a single game, we're still in the playoffs, whatever. But if we don't win out realistically, I am going to be so mad. Because there's no reason we lose those games. Honestly, there was no reason we lost to the Seahawks. I also personally would have started Mariota in that game. I would have started Mariota and activated Tanner McKee. Because
give Hurts time to rest.
Hurts
for other
needs
games.
time to rest.
Not everyone can have a flu game.
He sounded miserable.
Yeah.
In that.
If you saw his press conference, bro was sitting just like
bro's fighting.
Bro was hooked up to IVs for like 30 hours straight.
It's
trying to.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
No, it's like miserable.
Okay.
No, not
like
metaphorical.
Actually,
he was literally hooked up to IVs with electrolytes and stuff.
Oh my god.
Dude. And he had to fly out on a separate plane from the rest of the team to play because they were precautionary with it. So realistically. Not trying to make excuses, but can you blame the guy for
It's a tough stretch.
For not playing at his best. Like,
well, I mean, like it's admirable to try and give your best, but like
you also have to think about the team as a whole. Like, are you just going to be a detriment? That's the whole thing.
Being a detriment for being sick.
That's what I'm saying. Is you're hurting the team because you're not 100%.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
It's honestly better than Mariota, though.
I'm saying it's a dumb decision by both parties. The team to start him and him saying, "I'm ready to go."
Yeah.
Well, sometimes your pride takes over. Sometimes you want to.
And Jalen Hurts
that's a problem.
Jalen Hurts has been playing injured all season. Bro has had a injured knee for like 80% of the season. But like, I mean, even with those injuries, you kind of look at the other quarterbacks that are injured, and bro, there's so many injured quarterbacks, so many injured players in this league. I think this season might have the most injuries.
Outside of 2020, I'd have to agree. 2020 was a real...
It's a death march.
Don't even get me started on MetLife. Don't even get me started.
Don't even get me started on the freaking Super Bowl.
Let's not get into the Super Bowl.
Bro, that turf was awful. Even the officiating crew was like, dude, this cannot happen again. They were like, this is awful. But like, going into player safety, because that is something that we wanted to talk about. I just really want to know your guys' thoughts on like how we can make the game safer for players, but also keep like the physicality of this game.
It's just really hard to, because players are getting so much stronger and larger. Like when they're DK Metcalf is 6'3", probably 250 pounds, who's running a 10-second 100-meter dash, which is like
that's like almost Olympic level.
That's a nightmare for defenses.
Imagine getting hit by that. Or, I don't know, having him pick you up and slam you over his shoulder like he did Fred Warner the other game.
And then Fred Warner runs him over, and then he gets caught with the...
So it's like, players are throwing tantrums and people are getting hurt because of it. If you look at the last couple of years, you can go down the list. You can say DK's got a temper tantrum. Myles Garrett's got a temper tantrum.
Yeah.
Ndamukong Suh was a horrid violator. Michael Crabtree had a Aqib Talib, who was an instigator. You can go down the Antonio Brown, Vontez Perfect.
Wait, I'm sorry. Which one of those guys was the guy with the helmets? Remember the helmets? Yes.
That was Myles Garrett.
The guy who clubbed Mason Rudolph with his own helmet?
Yeah.
Yes. So it's like...
I shouldn't be laughing at that.
Players have,
I saw it live and I was like,
oh, dude, we were mortified. Like, actually mortified.
Yeah.
But players have these temper tantrums, and it ends up with people, like, getting hurt. Like, seriously hurt. On the field, they lose their marbles, or they just, like, lose respect for the game. Because how many times has Kareem Jackson been ejected this season? Like, 3?
A good few times.
Like, 3. And he keeps getting suspended because of it. And then there was the Steelers player, I forget his name, who almost put Michael Pittman in a casket, and he can't play the rest of the season.
I don't remember his name either.
It's something hard to pronounce, but...
Yeah, but I mean, I also saw there was that hit sparked a lot of commentary, but what you were saying about the suspension, I think what the league needs to really do is the league needs to, like, set a precedent on what they're going to enforce in terms of player safety and what they're not going to enforce. Because this kind of always comes back to it. And I know Spencer's going to hate me saying this, but this is just an example. Again. But when you have something that's so not a non-issue, like Dre Greenlaw suplexing Smith when he's already out of bounds for no reason, you don't need that. But you also don't need the following teams getting together and pushing and shoving, punches being thrown. I'm not saying that specifically, but I'm saying you either suspend everyone involved or you don't suspend anyone.
But it also comes back to DK did that 2 games later.
And that's what I'm saying. You either suspend them or you don't.
And wasn't suspended for that. He was suspended for the altercation with Diamonor Lenore afterwards. Yes. So it's like
was he suspended or ejected?
Ejected. Oh, he was just ejected. My bad.
Yeah, I think he's played.
I feel like ejections led to suspensions. I forget what kind
That's
of.
That's what they should.
I thought they did. That's more my confusion.
And that's why I was like, that's why I thought Dre Greenlaw was going to get suspended. That's where I just like had the thought that he was going to, and then when I heard he wasn't, Or I don't even think he got fined for that.
He got fined $10K for the hit.
Okay. That's what I was like, when I heard
Which I think DK's going to get.
He should get fined too. But like, I think the league needs to be putting a little bit more of a stern foot down on...
Or just make the rules
because like a suplex,
cut.
For both instances, a suplex is not a necessary reaction. There's no way in a football game that you need to suplex somebody to the ground.
I mean, it looks cool.
That's very dangerous for your neck and your head.
Yes,
especially because you're pushing someone down head first into the ground
with your body weight.
With your body weight anchoring them to the ground. Right? It's just not. It's not safe, and there's no reason to do it. Okay, so the league needs to start punishing that a little bit harder, and like the hits too. But like also, let's be honest. Why in the world did Big Dom get taken away from the sideline for holding the player back on his own sideline, which he is allowed to do by the NFL rules?
Isn't that his job?
It's his job. They say, a lot of people in the league say it's not his job, but he's the head of security. He's in charge of protecting the players on the sideline and the staff on the coaching staff on the sideline. But they're standing literally on the white sideline. That's his job to protect that.
You also have to realize the referees and the other officials are there for a reason.
Yeah, but when the crowd is so big and Nick Sirianni is in the middle of that, a hand on the chest pads is not as bad as that.
Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Right, like it's not as bad. So
swinging.
Let's say he didn't swing, he was just pointing, whatever. Let's just give him the benefit of the doubt. He didn't fully, go like that. He went more like that. So let's just say, but he did strike him, which is more than just this, right? But like the players, it's not their job to be fighting either. Their job is not to be fighting.
It comes back to the attitude thing, because it's not just Greenlaw, and Greenlaw's rarely had altercations like that. People have tried to accuse Warner of the same thing.
Fred Warner running over DK after that was a little unnecessary, but I understand.
After being suplexed, I'd be a little pissed too.
But he's instigating something further after that. Let's be real. DK.
Dog, that's not maintaining composure.
Dog, I don't care. You throw my entire body weight over your shoulder, drop me on my head, I'm pushing you over.
But what you get in response is what you get in response.
Exactly. And then then DK got ejected. So
exactly. And Fred Warner, like I said, he did maintain his composure after he gave DK a little check, right?
As well as you could even consider it blocking. I say that with air quotes.
It wasn't a block. There was no block. He fully was on the ground like this, and he just ran right over him. It wasn't a block.
DK was up, but okay.
DK was like half getting up. You can watch it right now. You can see he was.
No,
half getting up.
I know,
but anyways,
I'm doing the exact same thing Fred does.
Going into like that whole situation, why is Dom one of the most important people in the Eagles franchise? Why is he getting suspended for the rest of the season? And someone like Greenlaw, who did a more egregious motion, he got a $10K fine for the suplex.
But they also, you have to take into consideration, they also completely barred a photographer.
That's where I was gonna go too. Like the NFL,
like they're not making any sense.
Where is that consistency? Because you're not gonna punish your players, but you're gonna punish these people. The photographer
who are trying to make a living.
Did you hear what happened to this photographer?
No.
This photographer who is like Tyreek Hill's like personal media guy, pretty much.
Yeah.
And he's also a media guy for the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
He was taking pictures in the end zone. Tyreek Hill scores. Tyreek Hill sees him and is like, hey, grabs his phone, records him doing a backflip in the end zone, hands him back his phone. The guy is like jumping up and down, excited that his friend Tyreek Hill just scored a touchdown. And he's high-fiving a few people in the stands and takes it back immediately to the NFL for them to post it on their social medias. Look what I just got. And then they turn around, used his clip, and then suspended him, took away his license from all NFL sidelines for the rest of the season.
The photographer's license?
Yes.
So Tyreek's like, I have to fund your entire salary.
So Tyreek Hill funded his entire salary.
That's the point. Is they're not being consistent with their rules aren't in shape. Because when I see players get ejected, I immediately think, all right, they're suspended next game. Because for a while, that was the case. I remember players not being able to play the next game because they got a suspension. Or I might be conflating that with the NBA. However, what I noticed...
Well, it's kind of like... Also the thing that I like about the NHL, which we should probably start getting into in their player safety, is that the NHL is very like scaled. You are someone who's a repeat offender, you get a heavier penalty.
Same with the NBA.
Exactly. So I mean, the NBA, Draymond Green that's not really been shown. Draymond Green just punched someone. That's pretty bad.
An indefinite suspension.
But I'm just saying, like, in the NHL, you do something repeated, you get suspended repeated, that goes up kind of regardless of what you do.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that
Doesn't
goes
matter what
up.
happens.
It doesn't matter how many times you offend, scales up your punishment. They should be doing something like that in the NFL, because the NFL will take each incident individually and not look at, hey, this guy's just somebody who does it all the time. He's looking to play rough and play dangerously, and he knows he's going to get off scot-free. At very worst, he'll get 1 game suspended. That's the worst that he'll get.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just the inconsistency with the NFL is wild, and they need to take better care of the players. They need to set up better programs, because I think mental health is still playing a huge issue with it. When it
Especially
comes to,
when it comes to head hits.
Yeah.
And like just contact with the head in general.
I've never, like, going to the NHL and their player safety, I've never seen a league react so fast to an incident that happened outside of their league to try and keep their players safe than the NHL. Like, they were on top of it. Whereas, I guarantee you no other leagues do that fast.
Yeah, at least, like, from a hockey fan's perspective, and Nick can say this too, Department of Player Safety in the NHL has been a little bit more inconsistent over the past few years. Like, so there was this, do you remember the David Perron suspension that just happened?
Oh, yeah.
So, here's what happens, right? Ottawa versus Detroit. Matthew Joseph of the Senators checks Dylan Larkin, right?
Mm-hmm.
He knocked him out, and he's injured now. And Larkin's laying there on the ice, and then an Ottawa defender, Artem Zub, skates over and kind of just looking over Larkin. David Perron, a Red Wing, comes out of nowhere and cross-checks Artem Zub to the head.
Damn.
Suspended for 6 games.
Okay.
Like, the very next day, I'm pretty sure, or the day after the next day. Bless you. But then you have something like, I'm going to try and keep my composure here. Anders Lee with a knee-on-knee hit to Vladislav Gavrikov. And also, Slewfoot Arthur Kaliev, which fortunately did not end in an injury for Kaliev, but now Gavrikov is now out for week to week, which is at least a month.
Yeah, realistically, that's what it ends.
And Anders Lee went on to score 2 more goals to tie the game, and then we got beaten over. The Kings got beaten overtime. I was livid. That was absolutely awful. And like for like, a game where it's like we can continue history to extend that road streak to start the year. But no, it ended like that. And then like you also have, help me out here. What else has there been? There was one the other day. I don't remember, but like I'll bring another Kings example. Remember when Vetrano kicked Dubois off his feet?
Yes, I do remember this.
And then like Mikey Anderson just went over and then just like took down 2 Ducks, and then like there's like 7 people in the penalty box. Again, Vetrano wasn't given like a slew foot or anything like that. And then like just any other suspensions that have been called or like missed over the past few years with NHL player safety has been becoming more and more apparent, and it's just like it's a little frustrating. But like out of all the leagues, like Spencer said, the NHL is the one that reacts pretty much the fastest. I mean, like the NBA reacts pretty fast too, with how Draymond punched somebody.
Mm-hmm.
But NHL is pretty much the best example out there, and even then it's like it hasn't been that great recently.
It hasn't been that great, and especially recently, and especially with, I mean, I can't remember who was playing, but when the entire freaking ice, everyone on the ice were fighting each other, and like basically like 90s hockey style, like everyone got 5-minute game misconducts, and like for fighting. Like,
oh, that's right.
Yeah, they did
Florida
nothing about that.
Florida versus Ottawa, right?
I don't think they. Yeah. I don't think they did anything about that.
So here's what happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
Brady Tkachuk, Ottawa Senator, he's going in on a breakaway, and then, or was it a breakaway? I don't know. He was going in, he was taking a shot, and then he missed or something, and then it led to, like, it exploded into, like, this big altercation between everybody, and then Garrett Rank, the referee on the ice, said that 7 for Ottawa, Brady Tkachuk, 2 minutes for goaltender interference, 2 minutes for roughing, and then I think it was Matthew Joseph, same guy, was like, got 2 minutes for roughing, and then everyone else on the ice gets a 10-minute misconduct.
Everyone got kicked out of the game
for 10 minutes. The benches.
Wasn't a 10-minute misconduct the game? Like they get ejected?
No. It's just 10. If they were ejected, it was a game.
Got it.
Yeah, but like the benches were just straight up like less than half empty.
Yeah.
And like when we, I keep going back to the Kings because it's the only example I know. But like when we played the Rangers against Quick, and then Fiala got that 10-minute misconduct for what?
I don't even remember.
I'm so upset. I couldn't even remember. Just like he, like just kind of just pushed him around. Like, that's kind of it.
Yeah, I didn't really
normal stuff. Not how that last Ottawa versus Florida game ended.
Yeah,
that was actually violent.
Yeah,
New York, LA was getting up there, but like not that level.
No, it wasn't.
There's
no way that. I mean, like, you can't really give an entire team, like, you can't give 10 players freaking game misconducts. Like, you can't do that. That's a freaking Department of Player Safety nightmare to try to sort out.
Oh my god.
But like,
imagine filling out the penalty sheet.
Oh my gosh, I'd lose my mind. But like, they just, like, it's just all of these leagues really just need to have some consistency in what they're going to enforce and what they're going to do, like, about these very dangerous plays. Because there will be dangerous plays, and in one instance, the player will get suspended for a very long amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
And in another instance, a player will do the exact same thing and get off scot-free. The league won't even investigate it. It won't even look into it. So it's just like, why are we going to pretend like, I mean, no offense, but like, yeah, the NHL's good with it, but why are we going to pretend like they're the model for every other thing? Because like, their consistency is just as bad as other leagues.
Yeah. And then like, you also got to take into consideration that now I'm just going to go back to Anders Lee because it's the most recent thing. Anders Lee got away with a knee-on-knee hit that injured one of the Kings' best defensemen. Yeah. Now, when the Kings go back to face the Islanders in March, Kings are going to go headhunting. And, like, when that happens across the league, that's just going to create even more problems.
Yeah.
Like, for people that is, like, intentionally, like, trying to throttle with other players.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when Kings on opening day, when Fiala would try and throttle with Cogliano, because remember, Cogliano had that knee-on-knee hit on Fiala.
Yeah.
And then Fiala had to be out for, like, half the playoffs.
A knee-on-knee hit is when a player is, like, players are skating towards each other, and one player kind of sticks out their knee and just clips the other person's knee, and, like, basically inverts their kneecap.
Here, it's literally knee-on-knee.
Oh, like, their knees...
that can be. Oh, knee-on-knee.
Yeah.
Every time you said it so fast, I was like, knee-on-knee. I'm like, why is his knee glowing? Like,
bro,
I just...
No.
I was just like, also, not processing.
It creates... It not makes rivalries, but it creates, like, really hostile situations between fan bases, too. You look at what happened with Edmonton. The LA-Edmonton rivalry used to not be this bad.
No,
it used to be actually pretty fine for the most part.
Yeah.
But then McDavid started injuring players. We started injuring players back, and now the fan bases hate each other.
And
like, now it's just like
a good handful of my friends personally got doxxed from the Edmonton fan base online.
Oh yeah, I remember seeing that all over Twitter, and I'm like, why is this the level you're taking it to?
Yeah, like, why is this happening? This shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, like, this is kind of very scary. Like,
yeah.
And you can't do anything about that.
No. And, it's just, overall, it is like, it's like it's a domino effect waiting to happen.
Yeah.
Just like more and more of these incidents that just keep going off. And then now it's just like, now there's going to be bad blood. Now fan bases are getting into it. Like, Jesus. It's the...
And it'd be solved if you just reprimanded the player.
Yeah. Like, consistently. 24/7 monitoring of every player.
And
Not saying like that.
Players, and they don't need to act like they don't have people watching every single game.
Yeah.
To check for these things.
Yeah.
They literally, New York, or Toronto rather, because New York is football, I think. Toronto literally watches every single play that's happening.
They initiate timeouts mid-game.
They will initiate timeouts and they will initiate reviews mid-game.
Yeah.
So, like, I don't know why they're just, like, turning a blind eye when some dangerous
Exactly.
play happens.
Yeah. Like, I remember last night before we played Seattle, we were watching the Islanders and the Capitals, and Tom Wilson may have brought down the puck with a high stick. That was initiated by Toronto. That timeout, that wasn't... Yeah. You can't even challenge that as a coach. That has to be interviewed by Toronto, or reviewed by Toronto.
Yeah, by Toronto or the officiating crew.
But, like, when something with, like, Anders Lee or Cogliano happens...
You can't...
Come on.
You can't, yeah. You can't review that. That's, like, Toronto's going to have to look at this and decide what they do tomorrow. Like...
Yeah.
Like, they're going to have to come out and make a statement.
Like, when tomorrow comes, like, the damage is already done. Like,
yeah, and whenever they do give game misconducts, they're always just picking up the phone, talking to Toronto, like, hey, is this a game misconduct? Like, do we give them game misconduct? I think hockey's the only league where they refer to their, the experts in Toronto or the experts in their conference.
NFL does not go to New York.
They don't go to New York mid-game. To be like, if they're going to eject a player, it's the ref's call.
Yeah, like whenever a 5-minute major happens, where it's like a continuous power play, even if the man advantage team has like a score on said power play, it keeps going. Like, those have to be reviewed.
Uh-huh.
Like, they have to be taken up by Toronto, and
yeah,
we've seen this happen in crucial moments. The Steve Bernier, Rob Scuderi hit.
Yeah.
But yeah, like again, like Toronto just can't step in on their own time. Like.
But moving into the NHL season.
Yeah. With the regular season recap. So lots have happened ever since we last recorded.
So, namely, we saw Edmonton freaking pick it up, and then they cooled off again. So it kind of makes me wonder, how streaky are they? And, like, why are they so streaky? Like, their team... If they can turn it on, why does it stop?
You and I can answer that question. They're getting 80% or less goaltending, and their defense is full of AHL bums.
Truth. This is truth.
Word
to my mama.
Have you seen Ephraim Duchard, dude? He's awful.
Bro is a literal
pylon.
He's a pylon, but he's more like those little tiny cones that they put up at the Little League soccer practice.
Yeah.
Bro is a minor speed bump in the way of anything.
Right.
But, like, also, talking about other teams, because I hate talking about Edmonton.
Yeah.
Like, the teams that are doing good right now, you know where I'm going with this. Yours truly,
not
the
mine.
Philadelphia Flyers.
I don't own them.
They have the best record in the past month. That's impressive.
Over Winnipeg?
Over Winnipeg, yes.
Okay.
I don't know with their loss tonight against Nashville what that does, but their like win-loss in the past month is 2 or 3 games above Winnipeg.
Oh, okay.
They are like
fair.
I can look it up to be sure, but Philly in their last 10 is 7-1-2.
Pretty good.
You're
getting
a lot of points out of that.
You're getting a lot of points percentage out of that last 10.
And Winnipeg is 7-2-1. So
yeah.
Take that as you wish. So, this team, they were projected not even to, they were projected to be in the bottom 3 in the East. And now they're second in the Metro.
How many points are they above third place?
Well, they're tied. They're tied with the Islanders right now. I don't know if the Islanders won tonight or what. They also have a game in hand of the Islanders.
Okay.
They're 2 points above Carolina in 4th. So,
okay.
I'm not going to say it's a healthy position that they're in, but once again, no team that's in second, third place is in a healthy situation, except for the Pacific, which is literally the top 3 teams, and that's it. Like
pretty much, yeah.
Everyone else is 9+ points away.
Also, can we talk about this real quick? And like, yeah, we keep going back to the Kings. I'm sorry, but like, why is this the why are the Kings like 5 games back? Like, why do they have 5 games in hand on the Canucks and the Knights?
See. That's what I was wondering too a while ago, because I was like,
why do
I feel like we don't play enough games? Like, we are not playing that many games.
I mean, they've got to play 82 at some point.
Well, yeah.
Well, I know, but
when
like,
are we going to?
Why is here's what you got to think about. Like, why is our schedule backloaded when everyone else already has a chance to pad their lead above us? Kind of thing. You know what I'm saying?
Like,
no, it's
kind of
true.
like, well, so here's what to think about. Vancouver and Vegas both have 34 games played. The Kings have 29.
Oh.
Calgary.
That's the most I've seen in a long time.
Calgary has 33. Seattle has 34.
I don't think I've ever
and
seen
then Edmonton has 30.
Yeah,
so it's like...
Yeah.
But the fact that we're still competing, we're still third in the division.
We're still
behind
making the most out of what we can play.
If we say we catch up, right? We play these 5 games and we win all 5 games.
We're first.
We have more points than them.
Yeah.
By
3.
They are all divisional games too.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna be Calgary at next, the Sharks, then Edmonton.
Edmonton's on Saturday.
And then
next Saturday, I should
there's
say,
a
the 30th.
4th one I'm missing.
Is it home?
No, because we play Edmonton at home on Saturday. Unless it is
Detroit, Maple Leafs, Vegas.
Okay, so these next 3 are
so
division.
we play Flames, Sharks, Golden Knights, Oilers.
There it is, Golden Knights, Oilers.
And then Toronto, Detroit, Washington. We go East Coast until the end of January, and we're not back. Well, we might play home games in there, but like we don't play a Pacific team until January 22nd.
That's crazy.
And then that's the Sharks, and then we don't play another Pacific team until February 10th. So we're at the end of the season. We are going to play exclusively
like
Pacific teams.
Well, yeah, these
we're
next
going to be
few.
playing. Well, no, at the end of the season, we will be playing a ton of division games.
Well, yeah, they have run off already and
they're
made their
done.
point pads.
Yeah.
But how many games are we back of the
we're
top 2? 7?
Yeah, we're 7 points.
Like again, that's a big lead, but it's up to the Kings to win those games in hand.
Yeah. I mean, there's no other team that's fighting for a high spot in their division that are this many games back.
There is one here. Ottawa has played 28, but they're
at the bottom of the.
They're at the bottom of the Atlantic.
Even if they catch up, even if they win.
Yeah, no
they're
way.
only at 32, and they're still barely above Buffalo. So it's like they're not salvaging that. They're on a 6.
They're not taking that opportunity.
Streak. Yeah. So realistically, I don't know what the scheduling department thought for this one. It's kind of messed up, but like, I mean, going into like thinking about like what really, I don't know what else to talk about. Like the league has just been kind of like falling. The natural order of things have just been falling into place, really.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, the teams that we thought were going to be good are good. There's a few surprise teams like Philly, Vancouver, Winnipeg. But other than that, Boston's playing well. Toronto's playing well. Florida's playing well. Tampa's comparatively playing well.
But they also didn't have their starter for 2 months.
Exactly, and I don't know if Hedman came back, but they don't have their best defenseman. The Rangers are good. The Islanders are good. The Capitals are solid. Carolina's solid. Dallas is good. Colorado's good. Nashville's all right. And then Vegas, Kings, everyone else. I mean, the only surprise there would be Edmonton being awful, but that's good for us.
They won 8 and then they lost 3.
When Edmonton's not doing good, it's good for hockey.
Yeah. Yes, it is good for hockey.
Let's be completely, because I cannot stand Edmonton's fan base. Even as a fan of Philly, I cannot stand Edmonton's fan base being obnoxious because I can't stand hearing about McDavid and Draisaitl. That freaking toxic
Duo.
front office.
Yeah. Moving on to our second to last thing. Okay, let me get your guys' opinions. Spencer, you go first. What is your opinion on the shootout?
Like the part of the game, like
the tiebreaker.
Okay, so as a former goalie,
In what sport?
soccer. I will put that out there. I did play soccer for a really long time. I played it for almost a decade. Shootouts are fucking terrifying. Probably because I played with a much wider net and I had less padding.
True.
But the stress of a one-on-one situation with potentially the best shooters on the team as your first three, it's terrifying. It's nerve-wracking. I understand why goalies, sometimes crunch under pressure. I find it entertaining, but I think the system of it sometimes is a little, lopsided. As well as I don't understand completely why, if you win in shootouts, it's only considered one goal for a score. So it's like, the Kings lose 3-2. It's like, no, we made 2 goals in shootouts. They made 3 goals. It should be like 5-4.
That's like in the in the overtime in football. If a team scores a touchdown, they don't get to kick that extra point. They just get the 6, and that's that.
Yeah,
call that.
like it makes sense, but I also don't like it. That's me personally.
Like they don't count the goals that they score in soccer either. That doesn't get counted either.
Again, it annoys me.
Yeah,
but that's just my own personal opinion. But the overall thing about shootouts, it stresses me out, and I can only imagine it stresses the players out. And for what?
But they get paid millions of dollars to do this.
Yeah, that's true. That I don't. But it's just I think the format's fine. It's yeah.
Like, here's the thing though. It's like the argument is that like when it gets past 65 minutes of a team sport, like playoff implications shouldn't be like the argument is that playoff implications shouldn't be impacted by a skills competition. Does that make sense? Like a one-on-one.
Yeah.
The argument for a continuous overtime is that it's a team sport and that they continue to play until the golden goal is scored.
My argument for that is you do get players who are individually great on bad teams, and it gives them moments to shine. Like, I'm going to use the World Cup for I know you don't watch soccer. You're just going to have to bear with me.
Yeah.
Game went into shootouts, I think. Kylian Mbappe scored all 3 goals for France. Like, hard fucking carried that game for France.
Right.
And they lost in shootouts because somebody else didn't make a shot. He made his shootout shot. He made all 3 of the actual goals.
Okay.
And I wouldn't say bum, he's on the French national. But some other dude missed and cost them that game. Or had his shot blocked. So it's like, it comes down to like, are you worthy of being on this team? Yeah, it comes down to that.
I mean, I think also kind of
you might also be a team player, but you have to be good enough to bear some pressure.
I think also kind of what Spencer might also be getting at, is just like me interpreting it different. Is it's still a team sport because you have to have multiple people on your team score.
Yes.
It's not just the one person scores and that's the game.
As part of what I was
it's
getting
not
at,
like
it's
not like the NFL overtime where it's like the first team score a touchdown wins. Or if the first team scores a touchdown, the other team doesn't even get a chance. Right? Like this is like it's 3 rounds. It's the best of 3, and if it needs to go on, it goes on. So it's like the first 3 rounds, whoever wins that wins, and that means 3 people have to score, 2 people have to score, right? Like, and the goaltender has to do their job and to save it. So it's like the team is still being a team playing. They're just not playing together as a team to win.
Because in my mind, it also, you could make the argument for, okay, overtime is a full period. You don't get golden goal. You just you play until that period's over.
That's what soccer is. Soccer, their overtime period is just an extra 30 minutes of play, or I don't even know how much time.
It depends.
It depends on what the ref calls, right?
No. For extra time, it's a set. It goes from 90 to 120. So whatever that is.
And
so
then
it goes from 90 to 120, and then they add because they don't stop time in the middle of a soccer.
And then there's a golden goal set, and then there's shootouts. It depends on. I used to play with golden goal. I used to there's a lot of leagues.
I mean, for like little league, yeah.
A lot of leagues we used to play.
Like the professional leagues, it goes to it's 90 and then 120, and then if whoever's winning at the end of that, because you can score like 3 goals in there, and then whoever's winning, if it's still tied, then they go to penalties, and then they do their shootout.
Okay.
So they don't do golden goal in pro soccer.
I see. So, for the more experienced hockey,
so okay,
what do you think of the shootout?
This is a fun little conversation to have, and I kind of was going back and forth thinking about it just now, because on one hand, right, in shootout is it saves the game from being dragged on way too long. Because trust me, if just listen to this. This sounds crazy. In the 2014 Stanley Cup, when the Kings won, right, they played, I think, 2 or 3 2+ overtime games, including the game that they won the Stanley Cup. I fell asleep during the first overtime and didn't wake up until the goal was scored.
Scary. Imagine missing that.
Yeah, I was asleep because the game was also in New York. I'm pretty sure it was in New York.
The cup winning goal?
Yeah, was that in New York? It was here. It was here. So, but like still, like they have to play it. They have to play it late. So like
it goes past 10:30.
Yeah.
Here.
So I was also. It was 2014. Keep in mind, I was 12 when that was. I was 12 in 2014. I can't stay up past 11. Like, I'm sorry. Like, so if it's in the second overtime, I might fall asleep, especially because it was probably like on a school day, right? So
it was
like that's what happens when it goes too late, and just even if it's in the regular season, if it goes too late, it's just like
I'm going to bed.
It's like kind of what MLB does.
I was gonna go right into that. Padres Dodgers. There was a game. I woke up at 10 p.m. Woke up at 10 p.m. Started watching in the bottom of the 9th and still got a full 3-hour game.
You got a full 9-inning game.
Yes, I did. Like completely.
Yeah, in the playoffs.
Was that a playoff?
No,
game?
that was
a playoff.
No. That's Boston. That was Boston. That was the World Series.
Well, okay, same difference. That's what I was talking about.
Because I was talking, San Diego was not a playoff game, but it was at the end of the season. But it was still a full 9-inning game, and I woke up in the 9th inning to watch the game.
Yeah.
And then there was the World Series game against Boston, played in Boston.
Went past midnight.
It went past like 3 in the morning. It was like 3 in the morning
over here.
Was it really that late?
It was 2 or 3 over there. It was like
1 or 2. It was still played here. It was played here.
Was it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah, it was
because it was on Muncie walk-off.
My friend was at the game.
You're right.
But anyways,
regardless, it was late as hell and I was tired.
They then changed the rules to put a runner on second to make sure that it doesn't. I know. Say what you want about it. It does shorten. We haven't had an 18-inning game. We've had like the most 13 or 14 innings.
Wait, I'm sorry. Wasn't that San Diego game played with the ghost runner rule?
Yes.
So what does that prevent?
Then I don't think it went to 18.
No, it was long. I'm telling you.
You can check. I don't think it went to 18.
Yeah,
check it.
It's at least 15.
But anyways, this is getting far from my time to talk about the shootout.
Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
On one hand, you have high intensity, ends the game quicker, skills competition that brings excitement to all hockey fans. Like, this goes beyond your teams that are playing. I remember how electric that TJ Oshie goal for Team USA.
It was 16. It was 16 innings.
16 innings. See, not 18 though. That's the longest we've ever seen of that.
That's 2 innings compared to 16. But still,
trust me,
very
when
long.
you're getting deep into your bullpen, that's a big change. Because at some point, when you run out of bullpen arms, you can't reuse. You have to go into starting pitchers. So think about that then you have to.
You gotta rework your whole lineup.
You gotta rework your entire lineup for the rest of the rotation. Yep. So, anyways.
Go ahead.
But just imagine, like, it's just so much fun, and the fact that you can get that regularly, like, that happens way more often than you think, shootouts. But, like, do I think that's how games should be ultimately decided? Probably not. Although, the intensity as a fan, oh my gosh. I'm never more locked into a hockey game than when it's a shootout. And I'm glued to the screen and I'm like, oh my god, what is about to happen?
I have to agree, but like,
and there's so much potential for error on both sides that it sometimes isn't even a skill competition. It's just who is more locked in, who's more focused, who like wants it more. I've seen shootouts where the game saving shootout, bro touches the puck and leaves it behind.
Oh,
bro,
that's
just,
right, Marchand.
Yeah, bro just touches the puck, leaves it behind, game's over, they lose because dude goofed. Or some guy takes the puck backwards, momentum, end of shootout. You can't do that.
But the argument is, like, I'm not saying I advocate for this.
No, yeah.
But, like, the argument is, like, that little mistake has playoff implications.
Then what you do is, after you say, in the last 10 games, it's overtime. Because that shootout is still so much fun for an NHL fan.
Why change?
And if the argument's playoff implication, then change it for the actual playoff implications. Because at the end of the day, if you make it to overtime, you get at least a point. It's not like you're walking out empty-handed. And if you win in shootout and you win in overtime, you still get the same amount of points regardless. And it's more exciting for the fan. It ends the game much quicker.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, the 3-on-3 overtime, and if it was just to be a continuous overtime and 3-on-3, yeah, that's also very exciting. I do love a good 3-on-3 overtime.
Yeah, it is really good.
But I feel like that's more stressful than an overtime where it's just...
you can't...
Or than a shootout where I'm just like, oh my god, what's he gonna do? Oh, and then, bro's deking the goaltender, and you see some really fantastic skills in the overtime.
Yeah.
Freaking Peter Forsberg, bro.
Freaking the Forsberg
dangle, bro. You wouldn't get that in an NHL game. And I'm like, that's where I love to see it. And it's like, it doesn't decide that many games. And it's just a replacement for an extended overtime. Because if you can't get it done, maybe extend the overtime period to, what's it at, 5 minutes now?
It's at 5 minutes.
Maybe extend it to 10 minutes. And then do shootout. Right?
Yeah.
Then that way it happens less, but it's still... I don't know. I just think it's the best part of it. It's like, honestly, let's be real. In the NBA, this is more for college hoops because college basketball tends to, if it goes to overtime, it'll go on for like 5 or 6 overtimes. But like
same for college football.
Especially college football. But like in like the NBA, if it goes to overtime, oh my god, like
it's a 2-11.
It's just. It can be so annoying, but like that's when like, oh, what if we just do a dunk contest at the end of a freaking overtime? Like
center versus center.
Think about that.
That's what people compare it to. Like people
do compare it to that. I don't agree with that.
To a dunk contest, like that makes no sense.
But that's like, that's like the rationale.
It's the test of the individual player.
That's the rationale of like the skills competition. Oh, it's a skills competition, but like realistically,
but it's realistic skills they need to know how to do.
But it's like skills that they also use mid-game. It's not just you in the basket. It's you, goaltender of the other team.
Yeah.
And then goal. Like you still have to be very talented to be able to pull that off.
Yep.
And it also goes to show that if you have a really good roster that is very talented, you can win those games and you probably deserve to win those games.
Yeah.
If you can pull that off, right? Like that's why freaking the teams that have more skilled players that have better hands, they do better in shootouts because the harder you can deke, the better hands you have and the quicker feet you have, better chance you have to win. But in the other side, if you have a goaltender that is very composed, very calm, very level-headed, very focused, they'll save any shot.
Yep.
I've seen goaltenders go back and forth. I'm pretty sure I've seen Marc-Andre Fleury and like Jonathan Quick go like 10 rounds of not letting in goals. Like, that's intensity, that's skill, that's still showing skill from both teams.
Yeah. And like, here's my argument. It's just like...
You can also let those young little guys shine, like Grunstrom.
Exactly. Like, yeah, Grunstrom. Thanks, Toronto. But here's my side of it. Like, after 65 minutes, and like, this is like arguing against, like, oh, it shouldn't be shouldn't be deciding playoff implications. Like, after 65 minutes, those teams can't do anything.
Exhausted.
They're
that's why that continuous playoff, like the playoff overtime. That's why like people hate it so much, is because those players are gassed and they're not even playing good hockey at that point.
Yeah, and like what I was saying, like after 65 minutes, like those teams are still headbutting, can't get anything done. Someone's got to play hero, right?
Somebody's got to put that puck in the
Like
net.
someone, a part of the team has to play hero, and like just I know like on like shootouts can happen in any game, and yes, that can decide playoff implications. But I mean, like,
how often realistically is that deciding playoff?
Yeah, and like it, like a lot of those games can be like unstoppable force versus immovable object.
Yeah,
and like it has to come down to that.
And that's like because also to think about it, like a goaltender, I would say, uses less energy than a player. Because the player's skating up and down the ice, they're getting hit, they're having to pass, they're having to do all of this like energy using thing. And a goaltender just kind of sits there while the other team, while they're on the other side, they get a drink of water. They're just down there. Yeah, it's a little bit more physically demanding being like on your knees. But say your goaltender's tired, swap them in for a fresh goaltender that's just been sitting.
I wonder if that's a thing. I wonder if that's a thing you can even do.
Yeah, who says you can't? Pull your goalie and put in a new one. There's no
like
limit.
after overtime.
There's no. You can pull your goalie entirely from the net whenever you want.
I guess, but like.
I feel like I've seen that happen in overtime. Have I seen that?
Pull it for overtime?
Pull a goalie?
Probably very rarely.
But like you can do it, so why can't
can.
you just pull your goalie and put in a fresh? Like say you have two, like freaking New York. They have Quick and Shesterkin. Say Quick played the entire game and he's gassed, and now he's like
because he's 37.
Because he's 37, but he's like in the finishing overtime 1. They're about to go into overtime 2. Here comes the best goaltender in the NHL,
Igor Shesterkin.
Igor Shesterkin against an exhausted group of whoever they're playing.
Yeah,
that has no fresh legs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
shoot puck.
Like, I will always defend the shootout. I know it's an unpopular opinion.
I defend the shootout personally.
But,
I can live with it.
Yeah. So, last thing that we wanted to discuss, and this goes for all sports in general, and we've seen a lot of this recently. Sports journalism recently has taken more prioritized speed over accuracy. And I think it's shameful to take a look at that and say, like, here, I got it first. Like, get the engagement. Get the engagement from everyone else saying, like, oh, Jeff Passan reported this, or Elliot Friedman reported that, or Waj Bomb this, right? But then, like, we've seen it in the past couple of occasions we'll talk about here, is that, like, the next day, oh, never mind, this didn't happen. Really, this happened.
Yeah.
So, like, here's the one thing I'll bring up with Ohtani.
Yes. And I'm about to play devil's advocate so hard on this.
Okay.
So just be ready.
Yeah. They reported that Ohtani was on a private jet to Toronto to sign said contract with the Blue Jays.
Now, who was it really? I can't remember. It was somebody
Wasn't a member on Shark Tank?
Yes,
it was.
It was.
I forget his name. I don't know what his name is.
It was. I remember. It's on tip of my tongue, but yes, it was a member from Shark Tank.
Yeah. And then, like, a day or two
Mark
later.
Bergevin, maybe? Something like that?
That is not Mark Bergevin.
No, not Bergevin. What's his...
I know who you're talking about. I can't remember his name.
Not Bergevin, bro.
Not Mark Bergevin.
Who's Bergevin?
Mark Bergevin was an assistant to GM Rod Blake.
Robert Herge... Bro.
Rob.
I'm not even gonna... Bro, I know how to pronounce his name. I heard him so many times on Shark Tank. Herjavec.
Probably.
That's how you pronounce his name. Herjavec.
Yeah,
so close. I'm not that crazy.
So they mistake him for Ohtani. I don't know how that can happen.
Well, they don't see him go into the private jet. They just see a private jet leave from LA to
Toronto.
Yes.
Which is a very weird flight path.
For private jets.
That is true. So, like, there's, like, some justification for it.
Yeah.
But, like, you can't speculate that just because, like, a plane goes to Toronto. But, like, also, and like...
And Ohtani signed that Dodgers contract within, like, a day of that.
Yeah. And then, like, he had to apologize for the confusion. He shouldn't be having to do that. Like, why is he the one apologizing when it's, like, the faultiness of a reporter saying, like, oh, I got it. It's like it's more of like.
But it goes even deeper than just sports journalism. It goes to journalism in general. Like people are just pumping BS out just to get it done, just to get engagement, because they get paid off of engagement.
Mm-hmm.
They get paid. How fast can I report this? Yes, Woj is super fast, but I rely on most of his sources because I know he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
Poisson, for the most part, I trust.
Yeah, Poisson's someone you can trust. Same with like Heyman and Friedman.
Friedman?
I'm trying to think of the NFL equivalents.
Schefter, bro. You can trust Schefter. Bro is the most well-connected reporter in the league.
Was it Schefter? Was it who's the other one that was doing the weird BS about Haskins? Was it Schefter?
The BS about Haskins, like
thinking
he's alive?
No, saying he was ass and then mentioning he died.
What?
Oh, I don't
he was like Dwayne Haskins, who struggled as a quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers and Washington. I think at the time they were the Redskins. Was found like dead or something like that.
Sure.
It was some really weirdly worded tweet. I don't know if it was Schefter, if it was someone else, but I know it was some big NFL like reporter that just got like completely shat on for it.
That's crazy.
But I guarantee you, if you bring that up, Michael's got opinions on it too.
Yeah.
No, yeah, for sure. But like to play devil's advocate here, as a reporter, especially with the connections that you have, you build your reputation in the media with those, connections that you have. But you also kind of have to take into consideration, like, hey, I'm just getting the information and I'm putting it out what I have. They're not necessarily like, there's not much fact checking they can do, especially when it comes to something like a deal being made, right?
Well,
there's no fact checking you can do.
Wouldn't that be a part of their job description to report accurate information anyway?
Their part of their job description is to report what's happening in the league. Accurately as to the best of their abilities.
Hasn't happened.
That's where credibility comes in. Because if you are consistently reporting false news or
no one's gonna trust you.
Unbased news,
yeah,
no one's gonna trust you, and you lose all credibility.
Yeah,
there's a lot of reporters, not necessarily nationally, but like for small teams, like for the Eagles, for example, there's a few reporters that have lost all credibility because they just spew nonsense.
Yeah,
and they don't really talk.
Yeah,
but when you have like these bigger named guys, their connections are telling them, their connections are from the team and from the league. Like these are from, this is as close to primary sources you can get, like firsthand news, right? If they hear something wrong and they're trying to report it, like their job is to report it as fast and accurately as possible.
Mm-hmm.
Emphasis on fast and accurately. Because if you are, say if Poisson gets this piece of information and he's like, oh, let me go around and fact check it for like 2 hours. Everyone else has gotten the same information and they're posting it already. And then immediately the people that are sponsoring Poisson, like, the people that are keeping him going are like, dude, why didn't you do this? You had the information right there. Why didn't you put it out?
You have to trust us.
You have to trust your sources. With the exception of like, if it's coming from a team, you have to trust it. But if it's coming from like a third party, like if it's coming from, even if it's coming from like a team, like a manager or like an agent or something, like you kind of have to trust it until it's proven wrong. And yeah, with all that credibility, you tweet it, it blows up. Like the Yamamoto thing that happened tonight, we almost were like, well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
There's no reports that have said it's a done deal yet.
And then 15 minutes later, it happened.
15 minutes later, it happened. They're just reporting what they have at the moment, because if they don't, other people will, and then they lose out on their engagement. They lose out on their credibility. And these, like, journalism sites are not going to want to keep them on because they're not efficiently reporting. And
I guess I can see your argument for that.
These platforms are not, they don't care about accuracy. They, like Spencer said, They're all about the clicks. They're all about the engagement. If people are engaging, they make more money, and so does the writers.
Yeah.
And these writers have to go with what they're given. Because sometimes they're not given enough.
I guess.
And this is me playing devil's advocate pretty strong because my brother is a journalist. And he does work. He is a producer for a news company.
Yeah.
So it's like, you know.
But like, fumbling the biggest news in sports.
Yeah, that's inexcusable.
Yeah. But like,
or
you also
Arson Judge.
Oh, bro, that's just a freaking
Carlos Correa. Like, that was in the span of a season. That was one season.
Yeah. Who was that?
The Giants. I don't forget who was reporting. I forget who was reporting it, but they were all like, they're signing Judge, and he re-signed with New York. Oh, they're signing Correa.
He failed his physical.
Well, the physical,
not their
physical
fault.
happens after they agree to terms.
Yeah, not their fault, but like the fact that it happened.
Because pending physicals.
Yeah,
but it happened twice in a row.
The Aaron Judge thing, I think, might have been an instance where they got the wrong news.
Right.
Like they heard from the wrong source. Right. Yeah. And that happens. That always is going to happen in sports media, especially in sports media where it's always first. I mean, you sacrifice a bit of accuracy, but.
Let me bring up a little more TAM example to where like your not excuses, but like where your justification fits. Remember when the other day when it said that Nolan Patrick was retiring?
Who reported that?
I don't remember who reported that.
That's the question, because if you're getting these,
I remember seeing it.
If you have somebody with a middle tier credibility saying that, and then all the lower tier credibility people then start reporting it, that builds up enough credibility that some of these not these bigger names, but these bigger accounts will start posting it, and it gets bigger and bigger. And then you just have to realize you got to wait for these big names to report it.
Right.
Because like in baseball, you don't believe anything's true unless Heyman, Passan, Feinstein, unless they're reporting it. Right? Like you don't. That's what I was saying. I don't trust John Boy until Passan or Heyman or somebody reports it.
Yeah.
Right?
It was okay. To your credit, this was I'm assuming a mid-tier reporter. Dylan Rebillers.
I don't know.
This is for the hockey one. Reported that Nolan Patrick was retiring at the age of 25 and will become a video coach for the Vegas Golden Knights.
How do you spell that name?
DYLAN ROBILLARDS. I've never heard of this man in my life.
This guy has 3,000 followers on Twitter.
Unbelievable. So either the whole world got trolled or like he was someone who he thought he had something.
Bro is a journalist for a fairly big hockey news. And he's also on podcasts for Flyers News.
Okay.
But at the end of the day, I'm not saying he's a troll, or I'm not saying he's making things up or whatever. He might have heard something and was I need to get on it.
Like a game of telephone. It just went out wrong.
These guys that are middle tier that don't have the high credibility, they're trying to get that credibility.
Yeah.
So if they're fast and they're on it, their credibility straight through the roof, and
that's the risk they have to take.
That's the risk they have to take.
Yeah.
And sometimes when this happens, this guy, his credibility probably
Bomb.
Completely
gone.
Yeah.
And I hate to see that for somebody, because yes, these
guys
to
make a name for themselves.
They're trying to make a name for themselves, because that's all you can do. And not to discredit your argument, I do agree. Like, we need to be focusing on. You can't just be causing panic for no reason.
Due diligence to report it correctly.
Yes, there is.
But it's rather unfortunate, like fumbling the biggest news in sports, and then fumbling what looked like a very sad ending to this guy's career, who got rocked by concussions.
Yeah.
And, could have like an impact later in his life.
Yeah, it's rough. And you wish it could be better, but that's just the nasty world of sports reporting. You got to be first. It's your first or your last.
It's really a reporting issue in general. It's media. It's the corruption of media, and it realistically needs to be better.
Yeah. That's why we're here. Anyways.
That's facts.
Breaking news on podcast.
God. If only we were like once we, and this is let's make this announcement. Next year in 2024, Fourscore Sports Podcast is making steps forward to make the listening experience better. We're looking to expand to platforms. We're looking to add film. We're looking to live stream, hoping that we can get some more engagement. But we thank our loyal followers.
Yes. This is like our holiday special little gift to you guys.
Yes.
Christmas is the season of giving, and we shall bless y'all.
Yeah. We thank you very much for listening to us throughout the year. Should this be our last episode of 2023, but
Hopefully
in 2024, we will be taking steps forward to get the learning experience to a higher level for our selected audience. But,
yeah, because we've been having so much fun recording this, and I've always wanted to improve ourselves, and we know that it's a learning process, and we've very much have been learning so much about the whole podcasting world.
Yeah.
So we also appreciate you guys kind of sticking with us and
with our limited resources.
As we've started to upgrade our technology. We're starting to invest in microphones and new computer things and programs and whatnot. Technology, and we have people that are working very hard behind the scenes to deliver like editing and
shout
graphics.
out to Braeden and shout out to Emily for the artwork that we have currently.
Yeah, so we have a lot of people working behind the scenes, and we're also going to be looking to bring in some new guests next year and really trying to expand our horizons and keep the content rolling.
That is our promise to you, our Fourscore Sports listeners. But to end our holiday special, again, I'm Christian.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Spencer.
This is the Fourscore Sports Podcast Holiday Special. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you next time. Have a good day.